NAV Easy Security is a solution from mergetool.com. There's currently more than 50 customers running it worldwide in more than 10 countries. So what is it? It's a complete solution for NAV security. It works both in the RoleTailored and Classic client, and the full application is available in both places. There's really two pieces of it. The one is field level actions and data security. It's something that can't be done in standard Navision with permission, and it actually allows to control access to forms and pages, access to individual fields on forms and pages. You can control the actions and buttons, and you can also filter data both on form and pages, so you can limit what records a user can see. The other part of it is for roles and logins, and that's a piece that already is in Navision, but this one is much improved application with a lot of tools that assist you in creating new roles and setting up logins in an easier way. You can record permissions with the SQL profiler and client monitor. It's possible to both groups, roles and companies. So when you are assigning maybe 30, 50, 100 roles to a person and you need to do it in 10 different companies, it gets quite complex. By doing groups, you probably end up with a few permissions under each user. You can even have permission as another user, so you don't have to maintain every user in the system. It also allows you to do restore points, so as you edit permission, you do it offline, and then when you get ready to publish it to live, it will do a restore point of your current permissions, so if something goes wrong, you can always revert back to the previous one. It also has a very simple way of dealing with object level permissions. You basically only specify the objects you need to have extra permissions for, and Easy Security maintain the rest of them. So the release code unit, for example, is a good example on that one, where you don't want people to have access to release. There's really no other way than limiting the object for it, and that's all handled by Easy Security. Field level action and data security is a very powerful solution, allowing you to control each individual field, filtering data and all that stuff. But let's take a look at it here first. And if I look at it right now, I have full access to quotes, full access to orders. I can do anything I want, and I have also full access to credit memos in here. Let's go apply some field level security in here. And I'll go and set up some user security setup, and I have my user down here on the sales header. I'm basically going to do the read-only setup for me right now in here. So as I change this one, when I now open up the quote, now it's non-editable. The buttons are also grayed out. Same goes for the orders, where I can't get access to anything, and my credit memos are also grayed out. That's not really what I wanted, so let's go change this one to say instead use the basic setup in here, and then go see what now happened with my sales orders. So if I now go back to quotes, I now have full access to every field. I can insert an order. I have some of my buttons down here. My make order is actually grayed out, but else everything else is actually active down here. If I look on the sales order, my buttons are still grayed out, but I have access to some fields in here now. So I can actually still insert a sales order. I just can't change the address information, but I can change the shipping address if I need to. I can still go select my item. Can't change description and location, but I can go in and look at my quantity or add my quantity in here and maybe unit of measure and so on. So it's possible for me to change some values, but not everything in here. And if I open credit memos, it's still completely non-editable in here. So let's look at what the setup actually means. When I selected basic in here, what was that really doing in here? For each individual object, I can control my permission, and I can see my form 0 up here. It means every form that shows a sales order that I have not listed later on, I have put it in as being view in here. I could also go and hide it. So let's say I didn't want it to have people see the statistics. So I could actually go in and say for form number 402 sales order statistics. I want to go ahead and hide that one so they won't be able to get into it. If I go look at my sales order, I can then see what I actually did in here. The form was left editable because I needed to change something. But then again, all fields on the form is set to view being read-only. I could also go hide them in here. And these one are the fields I have currently set up. And let's add another one down here, like the payment terms. I actually want to go hide my payment terms. I don't want people to see that. The individual buttons, I can also control those ones. Again, 0 means every button is set to view being grayed out. I can go in here and say I want to add another control, my order button. I want to leave that editable because people need to click on that one to see information. And my function button, I actually want to go ahead and hide that one. So I will take that button away from the form. So as I now change this one, if I go back to my sales order, I can now see my function button is gone. If I look at my invoicing tab, my payment terms is gone from the form. If I click on the order button, it's now active. But if I click on my statistics, it tells me that I can't view the form. So basically, I have now disabled that form from being viewed. Even if people have all the data to read and execute it, I can actually just stop them from seeing a single form in here. So this one is a very, very powerful way of setting up security. Of course, you don't want to do it all over the place because there's a lot of data involved in it, doing it this way. So it can basically be applied anywhere. It requires a developer license to implement it, but as soon as it's implemented, you can work on it. And there's no limit to how many different setups you can have in here. The setup, I've currently changed my own user down here. But it also allows to use a blank user, so you could set up a real restrictive setup and saying, yeah, I want to have everybody that logs into the system being read-only, and then I could open up for the few users that needed to be different in here. The other side of this solution is the data security in here. And if I go take a look at my customers right now, I can see I have a domestic customer here. I also have an EU customer and so on. I have many customers I can see in here. If I go look at the list, I can see I have some customers and I have a filter singer here, so I'll get rid of that filter. So I have a pretty long list of customers. If this person only works with customers in the domestic posting group, I would like to apply a filter like that one. And that has actually been set up in here. So if I go look at my customer table, I can go ahead and say I want to apply this domestic filter in here. And as I do that one, if I now go open up my customers, I can now only see the one with domestic posting group. And if I look at my list, it's very limited in here. If I look at my filters, I can't see the filter for the domestic posting group. I can see the one for blue up here, so I can get rid of that one, and I see a few more customers, but I really can't see anything else than the domestic one in here. So let's take a look at how that actually was done in here. So again, I can filter individually by different objects in here. So if I look at form 0, I can go in and see my filters. So I have a customer posting group filter for hidden and domestic, of a hidden filter for blank or domestic, and on my location code for editable and blue in here. If I needed to type in orders and be able to see all customers, I could go in and say in the customer list, I don't want to apply that filter, and maybe I only in that case want to actually apply the location code filter, the editable one, where I wanted to say blank or blue, for example, because that's where most of sales orders go out from. So that would be a helpful filter. So if I now go and take a look at this one, if I open up from the customer card, of course, it will have my other filter applied first. But if I actually go to a sales order and do the lookup, I can now see a much longer list in here. And if I look at my filter, I can get rid of my blue one in here. If I go look at one of these customers and go to the cart, it just tells me, hey, that customer don't exist, and it shows me the first one with the domestic. So it's possible to limit what people can see in the editable forms to be different from what they can see in the list forms or any form in the system, basically. So yeah, so that's a very, very nice feature. The other thing is it also works very well in limiting data other places. So if I go into my chart of account right now, I can actually see in here I have some filters in here, all accounts in here, and I can see all the totals. If I go to the one called cleaning, I can see there's currently 26,000. If I drill down, I can see posting on multiple departments out here also. So let's say this user only works in sales department, and they really only need access to the income accounts in here. And by default, it would be nice if it only showed direct posting. So let's go set up. I'll just set up myself here in table 15. And read only is fine. That means I don't get anything by access creating or by accident creating another one. So I go in here and say this one is income only, income and sales. I can go look at my objects, and of course I can have pages also, and you can actually even use the same setup for both of them. But let's go in here and look at my card, and I'll say that my income balance field should have a hidden filter for 0, meaning the first value. My other one is my global dimension filter. I want to have another hidden filter, and it should for the blank or the sales department. And then I want to add a helpful filter, so only the one that has direct posting. I want to filter that one. I'm using 0 and 1 because you need to have, if you use multiple current or languages, you need to use something that is not affected by changes in languages. So you didn't want to put yes in here if you have multiple languages in here. But I've set up my filter here, and I want to go ahead and apply that to my user. So if I actually now go look at my chart of account, first of all, it's like I have a lot of accounts that are gone now. If I look at my filters, I can see my filter on direct posting, but I can't get rid of it. My cleaning account that used to be 26,000 is now 13. And when I drill down, I can see the blank or sales, and I can get rid of all filters in here, but I can't get rid of my filter for blank and sales in here. So there's really no way to see more entries than that one. Of course, you could apply data security in this level also in here. So the last thing that is possible in here is maybe this user only work in this year, for example. So if I actually go here and apply a flow filter, I can see my net change actually changes in here. I could also go ahead and apply a filter like that one. And that would be a little tricky, that one, because basically as the date move along, the filter would actually change in here. But that's with a dynamic filter in here. So I'll go in here and say I want to have my date filter as a hidden one. And I say I want to substitute the filter value, and then I go out here and do a lookup, and I say I can either do my allowed posting range, that will be my user setup or general ledger setup, or a lot of other things in here. But I have one in here that say current year, and it will be from the 1st of January to the last day in December in here. So I want to apply that one in here. And if I now go open up my chart of account, now my value is like that one. If I look at my flow filters, I can't see it, I can't remove it, there's no way I can get outside that range either, and it dynamically will change when next year come. It will automatically change, and you can base it on all the other different calculations that were in here. So that's basically the abilities by the data security, being able to limit either as a nice helpful filter or a completely hidden filter nobody can see, nobody can remove. It can also be applied to entries and flow filters like I showed here before. Field level and data security can only be done because of the objects actually being changed. And there's no merge required or anything like that when you actually run it, but you have to run an install engine. So let's go look at how that actually works in here. So I go into setup, and if I look at my setup currently, I have decided to use these tables. Let's say I wanted to add my purchase headers and purchase lines also in here. So I add them in here. In my list of tables, I want to be able to control field level and data security in. So I now added the table. Now you need to go modify the code for it, and that's actually where you have a wizard to do it in here. So I'll go select implement changes in code, and I already selected a file name. System now export the right objects for me, and then it will run an engine that actually writes all the code, and at the end it will come up and ask me to import the new objects that were changed in here. Only objects that actually needs to be changed will have the code written in them. So if you already have the code implemented, it won't change the objects, and that means it won't affect the subfile, that all the users won't have all their customizations removed from all the list forms and so on. But it's almost done here implementing the code changes, and it will give me a statistics about how much is actually changed here in a few seconds. So I have my 209 objects that were exported. Out of those one, I only needed to change 27 forms and 25 pages in here. And I want to import my changed objects. So as I now finished my import here, I need to compile these objects. So let's go here and filter on the one that are not compiled, and compile all of them in here. And this one will enable all the changes in here. Having a lot of changes on form and pages is normally one of those things that causes problems, because when you need to upgrade next time, it's going to be a lot more expensive, and the features in field level action and data security can actually be removed the same easy way it's actually added in here. So if I go down here and say I now want to delete my changes, again it wants to export all of them to ensure there's not objects that it don't know about, but now it's exporting the 209 objects, and it will take out all the code from the objects. So after this one is done, your setup of course sits in data in new tables, but you won't have any modifications to your objects any longer. So if you need to put in another ISV solution, if you need to upgrade to the next version of NAV, things like that one, it gets a lot easier based on almost no modifications. There's no modification based on field level and data security. There could be other modifications, but it doesn't add any extra time or effort by having all this field level and data security code implemented in your form and pages. So it finished. And if I look at it here, I can see it removed all the form code, and I have one of the pages, I guess, that were not modified, and I don't want to import them, but else I would just have to import the objects. Well, let's go check that it actually works. So if I go to Easy Security now, to my user security setup, I can now go in and I'll just do it for the blank user here, add 38, defaults to read-only. If I now open up my purchase orders, now shows up no buttons, nothing is available for me to actually change in here. If I wanted to, in my read-only, maybe go in and say they didn't even want them to see the credit memo, I could go in here and say my credit memo. I basically want to hide that form. So if I now go back and open up my purchase orders, or purchase credit memos, of course, it just tells me that I can't view that form. Easy Security is available in 3.6 or later executables, and it's independent of the application version. So you can use it with a 2.6 application if you're still running that. There's only new objects, so you really don't require a merge at all. And currently it's available in 8 languages. It's all the Western European and North and South America languages available. It can be really, there's 3 different setups that could be useful for it. You can use only the login and restore portion, and that's $800. If you also want to be able to record the roles and the login and restore points, it's $2,000. Field level security can be purchased by itself, and it's $2,400. If you decide to get the complete solution, both for roles, logins, restore points, and the field level security, you have to pay $4,000 for that one. MergeTool.com offer fixed price installations, and we also have support if we do the installation, and there's no other NAV modules required to actually buy the Easy Security solution. If you want more information, there's a lot on it on the MergeTool.com website. If you want a demonstration version or have other questions, feel free to send an email to info@mergetool.com, and we will respond back. And we can also do online demonstrations if you have more questions than normal.